It's Art Marketing Monday. And today, because everybody is snowed in half of the country, I'm so sorry. Anyway, today's a really good day to focus on your marketing. So, we're going to try to help you make some money by talking about some things like how to raise your prices, how to approach galleries, how to brand your art, and so much more. So, if you're new here, my name is Eric Rhoads, and I'm the founder of several art magazines, newsletters, conferences for artists, and other things. I've been helping artist galleries and other industries for decades. My superpower is the business of art, and I've spent my career marketing and selling products. I've watched businesses and artists grow and 10x their business. So hopefully I can help you. So let's get this show officially started.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhoads. Now, here's your host, Eric Rhoads.
Hey, if you want to come on camera on Art School Live and ask your question live so that I can probe and really give you good answers, just go to artschool.live forward slash stream. All right. And you won't come on automatically. So don't worry about that. We actually bring you on. Okay. And if you want to send me your questions by email, send them to me, Eric at streamlinepublishing.com. All right. Now let's get to it. I have a bunch of questions that people have submitted. And so we're going to jump right into those questions, assuming I can see them here. Let's see here. Can we find them? No, we can't find them. Let me just look for them. They just disappeared all of a sudden. So we'll see if we can figure out how to do this. There we go. All right. So something happened here. My apologies. Megan, you're going to have to come in and read the questions for me. My apologies to Megan. But meet Megan, my new producer. And
hello.
Megan is going to come in and read the questions.
All right. Our first question today is Amanda Lee from Franklin, Tennessee. She'd like to know, how do I know when I am ready to approach galleries?
Well, that's a really great question, and it's a very important question. Now, first off, I'll tell you the story of an artist, a friend of mine named Carol. Carol was studying under a very well-known artist, and that well-known artist was saying, "You're not ready yet, you're not ready yet, you're not ready yet." And she had been painting for quite a while. And so she asked me, am I ready yet? And I said, yeah, I think you're ready. And so she went out there and she started selling her artwork, and she was ready. She was not at the level of her mentor, but she was ready enough. Just keep in mind that there are different people who are going to see different things, right? Your level of sophistication is always going to be growing. And so if you wait for that, you're never going to be completely ready, but you might be ready enough to sell your paintings at a certain price in a certain gallery. So the best way to do that is to get an outside opinion. And I prefer to get some 2 or 3 opinions. And I would do it this way. First off, I would start out by asking some fellow artists. The problem with fellow artists, of course, is they're going to tell you what you want to hear because they want to be kind to you. But if you're asking them and saying, look, I truly need to know, but it's better if you have somebody who's disconnected from you, who's really going to give you an answer. And of course, the best person for that would be a gallerist. Now, the problem is gallerists are busy people. They don't have a lot of time. So here's what I would do is I would pick out 1 or 2 gallerists, maybe somebody in your area, and I would send them an email, say, could I buy a half an hour of your time? And the offer to buy their time says, okay, I respect your time. And so, whatever it is they're going to charge, which isn't going to be much, $50 for an hour or something, probably, maybe $100, it's going to be worth it. It's going to be valuable to you, because what you really want to do is get an opinion. So you talk to them, you say, listen, I don't want to hear all the good things. I don't want you to make me feel good. I want you to tell me if I'm ready. And by the way, I'm not even trying to get into your gallery. I'm just trying to get an opinion, and I want to know if I'm ready or not. And so if you do that, you get 2 or 3 people like that. Yeah, it's going to cost you a little bit of money, but that's a really good start. Now you can find some people, but you've got to find people you respect who are going to tell you the truth, right? Because nobody wants to hurt your feelings if it's not good. But a gallerist will just say, hey, you're not ready, work on these 3 or 4 things. That's what I think. Okay, what do we have next, Megan?
We have Caroline Hayes from Richmond, Virginia. She would like to know, should I offer payment plans for my higher priced paintings?
Should I offer payment plans for my higher priced paintings? Um, well, I don't know what higher price means. That's when it's good, when you guys can come on camera and I can ask you probing questions. So I don't know what higher price means. To you, higher price might be jumping from $100 to $200, but it might be higher priced in your world might be $40,000. Look, I think that basically, um, I would probably avoid it. I wouldn't say don't do it, but I would avoid it. And the reason I would avoid it is because either somebody can afford it or not. Now, if they can't afford it and they want to make payments, then leave it to them to say, hey, could I make payments on this? And then you could say, well, let's discuss what the terms look like. Because if, let's say, they are making payments on it and they've tied up that piece of artwork, you could say there's a couple of ways to do it. Say, okay, you'll make payments on it and the piece of artwork will come when you finally paid for it. The other way is you could say, I'll make payments on it, and you could go ahead and have the artwork hanging. But, maybe after a while they get a little tired of it and they say, I'm not going to make any payments anymore, so I want you to refund my money. That's not fair to you. So you want to have an upfront agreement, no matter what you decide to do, what that looks like. So if you're making payments and you haven't completed it, then you need to return the painting, but I'm not refunding your money. Or some variation on that. So that's the difference between paying full price right now and the difference between making payments, right? So there's some give and take, some contractual obligation that you need to take into consideration. I think that what you might be doing is you might be opening yourself up to future problems. Now, if so, and I don't want to make a blanket statement because people are good people and everybody's in a different situation. And by the way, I have made payments on paintings before, but they're usually paintings that are so expensive that I just need to kind of take it a little bite at a time. And usually what I say is I'll make payments on it and you don't provide the painting to me until I've finished making payments on it. I got my eye on a painting right now. It's a good painting, it's expensive, and I just don't have a lot of cash that I want to just put out there for it. And so I might be willing to make payments on it. So, all right, next question comes from.
I have Daniel Brooks from St. Petersburg, Florida, wondering how important is it to have consistent painting styles for my marketing purposes?
Daniel, we're going to be bringing Winter Escape, my artist retreat, to St. Petersburg, Florida next February. And if I were people suffering through weather like this, wouldn't it be nice to have had a break in Florida a couple of weeks ago, right? So go on to winterartescape.com and sign up for next year if it's up. I don't know if it's even up, but that's where we're going to be going. So the question is it okay to have different styles as an artist? Listen, you're an artist, you need to do what makes you happy. And if having different styles makes you happy, I'm okay with that. But it will cause you some problems. And let's talk about what those potential problems are. I paint in a lot of different styles. I have a big piece that I'm working on right now that is on the edge of abstract. It's still realistic, but just very barely realistic. And I've done a lot of big brushes and bold brushes and vibrant colors. And yet at the same time, I will paint something that is classically realistic and a lot of different things in between. And so I do that because it's good for my soul. I really like doing it. And you have to decide what's good for your soul. Now, when you are putting yourself out there into the marketplace, people kind of want to know what you are, who you are, what you do. And I think that it would be better to be stable about that and not try to confuse your audience. And so there's a couple of options. One is you might pick a lane, any lane that you feel is going to be the best lane for you to be successful selling. Pick a lane and become known within that lane. And that might be different subject matters. It might be a specific subject matter, but pick that lane and put all that stuff on your website. I consulted with somebody one time. They had done some advertising and they weren't getting any results, and everybody usually does. And I thought that was confusing. So I went to their website and they had all kinds of styles and approaches and different things. And what they were advertising in the magazine was not even visible on the website. You had to dig for it and find it. So imagine this. Let's say you like something that's extremely realistic, very tight, realistic, and you go to the website and you see nothing but colorful abstract, and you go, oh, well, I must have the wrong artist. There must be two artists with this name. That's kind of what's happening. Where in reality, you have it buried through multiple buttons and stuff. Well, just remember, people aren't going to go through all that trouble to be able to find something. If you're advertising something, it better be on the front of your website. Otherwise, you're wasting your money. And so make sure that you kind of pick a lane. Now, the other thing you can do, I have a friend who has, he paints under multiple names, right? So he has one name that we all know him by, but he has another name that he uses for his abstract painting as a separate website. He doesn't have a picture of himself on there. So, there's nothing wrong, illegal, or immoral about that. It's not fraudulent. That movie stars have stage names. You can have stage names. I have a friend who wanted to make more money and do a different style. And so he makes good money in both. And so that's a possibility for you. So take a look at that as try to figure out what, from a marketing standpoint, people need to know who you are, what you stand for, what you paint. And if you confuse them, confusion is the kiss of death in marketing. All right, let's move on.
All right, next we have Grace Kim from Irvine, California. Do art competitions and awards really help my sales?
Do art competitions and awards help your sales? They help you in many ways. First off, I was with the head of the California Art Club, Peter Adams and Elaine Adams, the heads, and they said that when they started their California Art Club gold medal, what ended up happening is everybody started elevating themselves. They were trying so hard to get in that they became better painters. And because they were competing with other people, they became better painters. And so they kept lifting up. And over the course of 8 or 10 or 20 years, the quality standards just got higher and higher and higher. And a lot of people in the club increased their quality standards higher and higher and higher. So one of the reasons that you want to enter competitions is to elevate yourself. I entered a competition and I was sweating bullets over it. Am I good enough? Am I good enough? And I did not get accepted into the competition. I didn't win anything. Now, that's not necessarily telling you you're not good enough, but when you get that third party validation, that helps you, right? That helps you with your head. And I think that now that I look back, I found that painting I entered and it wasn't good enough. At the time, I thought it was. I was too close to it. And so getting some distance helps, but getting outside opinions helps. And that's where competitions help. Now, is an art competition going to help you sell paintings? Let me give you a couple of examples. I'm sitting with Kimball Geyser. He had just won the $15,000 cash plein air salon award, grand prize award. I'm sitting there interviewing him on camera. His cell phone rings, and it is a very prominent gallerist. And he called Kimball and he said, hey, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm so-and-so from so-and-so gallery. I got your number from so-and-so, and I would like to invite you into our gallery. Now, this was a top tier gallery. This artist could not have gotten into that gallery no matter how hard he tried. You've got to be invited in. And the only way to be invited in is to do something spectacular, right? So by winning that award, he got invited in. And I think that happened again to Kyle Ma. I think Kyle Ma got into that gallery as a result of that too. So there are galleries who pay attention. I know gallerists who tell me all the time, we pay close attention to all the entries, who's entering, who's winning, and it doesn't have to be the grand prize. If you enter a competition, enter as many categories as you possibly can. Consider the prize, the entry money to be marketing money. To enter a competition, 25, 30, 35 bucks. And it's a lot of money for some people. I get that. But think about this. If you entered one time and in one category and you won something, it gives you something to talk about. Now, it's not about winning the money, and that's nice too, and you might win some money and get your money back, but it's about the prestige of being a winner, right? And so that helps you, and it's something you can list on your website and put in your CV or your resume, and just kind of stack all those things. So Kimball Geyser, when he entered the plein air salon competition, he entered 6 or 8 different categories with 6 or 8 different paintings every time. And he kept getting noticed by the judges and kept winning. So, you might be really good at portraits, but you might be really good at portraits in plein air. So you enter it in the portraits in plein air category and the portraits category. And what happens is you increase your odds. Now, as a judge, I can tell you this, that I judge a lot of competitions. I've just been invited to judge some more. I'm not taking them all anymore. I can't. But one thing I've noticed is when I'm judging categories, sometimes categories are thin, right? So if there's a specialty category, let's say it's nocturne painting, it may only be, other categories may have 200 or 300 or 500 paintings in them. A nocturne category might only have 10 or 20. And so they've got a narrower group to choose from. As a result, you have the opportunity to increase your odds. So I think, it helps you from your resume standpoint. And yes, I have had people tell me they have called people and tried to buy paintings when they have become award winners. There are some collectors who only collect award winners. They look for paintings that have ribbons attached, so to speak. They go to shows. I was at the Laguna Plein Air Painters Association show 2 years ago, and a lot of them have these big ribbons. A lot of people, that just sucks people in. It's like, I'm going to fight to get that piece because I know that's an award winner, because the judges are good. I was one of the judges, and so that helps the credibility of a painting, and also helps the pricing of a painting long term. All right, next question.
All right, this one is actually from our group chat today. Hi, this is Rachana, I hope I said that right, from Nova. My question is, I like to paint in both watercolor and acrylic. Is that fine if you want to create a portfolio or even sell paintings in both mediums?
Oh yeah, it's perfectly fine. A good painting is a good painting. You look at some artists like Anne Blair Brown. I think she paints in acrylic mostly, but she also paints in oil. A lot of artists paint in oil, watercolor, plus acrylic. A lot of artists paint in gouache plus. I don't think it matters. I put paintings in the art galleries I'm in. I put gouache paintings in. I put oil paintings in. Those are my primaries. I have a gouache painting in a museum. I have watercolor paintings in a show in China. So there's a lot of different options. If you're a good artist, you're a good artist. And so do what feels right. I have in my studio, I wish I could show it to you, but I'm not anywhere close right now. But in my studio, I have a watercolor station, and I use that for watercolor. I have an easel set up for gouache station, and I use that for gouache. I have pastel, I have oil. And I also have a bag of acrylics if I decide I want to do acrylics instead of oil. So I can just kind of move around what feels right. And there's a mood, right? So some mediums fit a mood. That's why I think it's really important for you as an artist to grow and say, I'm going to learn about gouache, or I'm going to learn about oil, or I'm going to learn about watercolor. Because what it does is it makes you a more well-rounded artist. Now, the reality is I could spend the rest of my life and still not get as good as I want to get at oil painting. So I was a little bit resistant about taking on other mediums in the beginning, but then something happened to me. I attended Watercolor Live, and I wanted to learn how to paint watercolor, and I started painting watercolor, but there were approaches and techniques that I learned on Watercolor Live that I had never seen applied to oil. And I thought, I'm going to try that with oil. And I got some good results. So I think that you can do both and do whatever strikes your fancy. Now, your galleries are the ones who are going to determine that, but I don't think they're going to care. You just have to keep in mind that some galleries may not like particular mediums, and some galleries don't care. And I think it depends on how they look, right? That's what it really boils down to. Okay, let's go to the next one.
All right, we have another one from our comment section
Yay,
from
comments.
I know. C.G. York. How would you market mixed media paintings such as watercolor highlighted with pastel?
How would I market them? I market them like any other paintings. Well, you're marketing a painting, you're not marketing the medium. That kind of goes to what we just talked about. If it's mixed media, what you're doing is you're marketing an emotional image. You're marketing emotion, not technique, right? Get rid of technique in your head, right? That's not what you need to be doing. Focus on just making a great painting and make that great painting sell. So nobody cares. I mean, there might be a few people who care, but if you have a mixed media, I have a beautiful mixed media painting hanging in my office. A friend of mine sent it to me. It's lovely, and it's a combination of different things, and it's really lovely. I collect great paintings. I don't care if they're a particular medium or not. Now, I have a collection of Russian oil paintings. I love those. But I would love to get some Russian watercolor paintings. I'd love to get some Russian gouache paintings and Russian everything. So it doesn't matter. Okay, we're going to pause here for just a second, tell you guys about something. I am like jazzed, super nervous, excited about it, and super nervous, excited because it's kind of like, what can I say? It's kind of like a dream, right? So my favorite thing to do, if you've watched this show long enough, by the way, thank you for watching today. And if you are in the Northeast or if you're in the South where you're getting blasted with these massive snowstorms, my heart goes out to you. I am fortunate enough not to be in that area this time. I was recently, but so we hope your power's on. We hope that you're safe. We hope that all is well. And we hope that you've got plenty of food and heat to get you through it. So our heart goes out to you. Good time to be focusing on learning painting or painting, right? Good time for that. So anyway, my favorite thing to do is to paint with friends. And I was one of those people that never really had a lot of friends. I know that's probably sounds pretty crazy, but I just didn't. I had industry acquaintances and people I'd hang out with at industry events and things like that. But when I got into painting, I made all these friendships and I have people that I can go painting with. And when I do my retreats, I have developed a group of friends that I love to paint with, but I also like to set up and paint with other people so that I can learn from them and get to know them and so on. And then when I do these trips, that's glorious because you're with people for like 10 days, sometimes longer, and you really get to know them at a high level. You get to be able to help them with their painting, and it's just really fun. Plus, you're touring and seeing the world. Well, last July, well, actually, about before COVID, I got this call from this guy. He says, "You won't believe what's happening with the plein air movement in China." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, there are thousands of people involved and thousands of people showing up at events, and you've got to experience this." I said, "Yeah, well, what's it like?" And he tells me, and I said, "Well, I never really thought about going to China." And he says, "Well, why don't you come?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, maybe." And so we kind of talked about it, and then he finally convinced me, and then COVID hit, and it didn't happen. And then after COVID, I got the call again, he says, okay, let's relight this thing up again. And I said, well, I'm a little afraid. Honestly, I'm a little afraid because, of what people say on the news and, what I've heard. And he said, why don't you come and find out for yourself? Rather than being closed-minded about it, why don't you just find out? He says, I could tell you none of that stuff's true, or I could tell you some of that stuff's true, but it's not going to impact your trip. So I went, and it's like, I could live there. I know that sounds really crazy to a lot of people because of, what your impressions might be, but there were areas, and I, by the way, I met Americans who do live there who love it. The people are super friendly. The food is beyond amazing and much better than going into any Chinese restaurant. It was incredible, and the volume of food was incredible. Everything's a feast. And so what blew me away though was all the incredible things to paint, all the old villages, all that kind of stuff. So I've decided, I got to know these people. I like them. I trust them. I thought, there are a lot of people who would like to go to China, but they're a little bit afraid, like I was. And so if they go with me and they know me and they can trust me, then they know that I'm not going to put them through anything that's going to be difficult for them. So watch this brand new video. I've not even seen it yet. Fine art connoisseur trips are legendary. We have seen the world together, going behind the scenes at the museums, getting special experiences, oftentimes to historic artists' homes, meeting their families, seeing private collections, oftentimes behind the scenes at museums, seeing paintings and holding paintings in our hands. Our experiences are rich and deep. One time, we even had the Sistine Chapel privately for an entire hour just for our group. You want to join a fine art connoisseur trip, and this trip is going to be spectacular. 10 days in Japan. We're going to do Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, and we have an optional trip where you can go to Hiroshima. So you don't want to miss this trip. Also, for those of you who are interested, who might be painters, you can do the Japan trip and then meet us in China for the beginning of our big China trip, a China plein air trip. You can learn more about that. This is a spectacular time to travel to Asia. Grab your tickets now. These are not going to last long. This is going to be fall of this year, 2026. So that video there is actually about the Japan Fine Art Connoisseur trip, not specifically about the China trip. I was just telling you about the China trip. We're going to go to Beijing, and you got to go to Beijing because if you're going to go to China, you want to see the Great Wall. You want to see the Forbidden City, which blew me away. I thought, it's just going to be a building. It's like, no, there were 9,000 buildings, 9,000 buildings. And you want to see all these temples and these incredible places. And then we're going to go to Shanghai, which is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It looks a lot like London, quite frankly. It's very classically designed. I never expected that. And it's beautiful at night, great for nocturne painting. But there are all these, what they call water villages, water towns. And the water towns are these beautiful old bridges and the old Chinese boats, hundreds of years old, and the people and the colorful, and it's really fun to paint. And then we're going also to the mountains way down south, big giant mountains we're going to be painting there. And we have at least one very well-known Chinese artist who's going to travel with us the whole time. We have other artists that we're going to meet up with. You're going to get a chance to meet some of the top artists in China. We're going to give you a lot of really great experience as well. That's going to be at, you go to pleinairtrip.com/China. Okay. All right. So I just want to quickly mention to you guys that you can subscribe to this program, and we wish you would. It helps us. And it helps you too, because when you subscribe, you hit the little bell, you get notified when we go live. We now have been on since the beginning of COVID. And so that's thousands of shows. And every day we're here every weekday at 12 noon. So make sure to subscribe. That would be very helpful. We've taught over 20 million people to paint. That's pretty cool. And we have a free ebook for you today. What is our free ebook today? Drum roll, please. 97 Incredible Art Secrets. It's free video. It's 2 hours of free video tips from some of the best videos that we have produced. That's at 97artsecrets.com/ASL for Art School Live. Okay, now let's get back to the questions.
All right. We actually have a follow-up question from CW, or excuse me, yeah, CG York, excuse me. So would the mixed media be acceptable to a gallery that focuses on watercolor paintings?
Well, I can't, I can't answer that question for you because I don't know. It might be, it might not be. In the watercolor world, there are some purists, and I'm not being critical of that, but there are some purists who don't even want you to use white gouache. If you're leaving the white of the paper, that's what they want. They're into transparency. They don't want opaque. And so it depends on who it is representing you. A good gallery sees a good painting. They're not going to care. Typically, most of them aren't. It's not going, and it's pretty much anything you could do is not likely to prevent you from selling a painting. And that's what they care about. They are a retail operation. They love what they do, but their goal is to pick pieces that are going to sell. And if they pick pieces to put in their gallery, they're going to sell them. So I think the answer is you got to ask them. All right. What else do we have?
Another question from our comment section from Josie Figueroa.
Hello, Josie.
What is better to start with to build up my brand, oil or watercolor?
Doesn't matter. What matters is that you do your best work, right? Your brand, a brand basically is a trust instrument. What people think of you when they think of your name. So when I say the name John Singer Sargent, what do you think of? When I say the name Claude Monet, what do you think of? You have an image in your mind of something that represents Sargent, something that represents Monet. What is the image that you want people to have in their mind when it represents you? And so that oftentimes comes down to a style and approach. And can you figure that out? What a brand is a brand basically says, I know what you do. I either like it or I don't like it. I either trust it or I don't trust it. Your brand is not, you can't control that much about your brand. You can feed things to people to tell them about your brand. And that's constant reinforcement. That's advertising. That's social media. That's a lot of stuff. I know artists whose brand is not about their art, it's about their attitude, right? So I could give names. I would never do that, but I could give names of people who galleries don't want to touch because of their attitude. And that has become their brand. I can give names of artists that other artists don't want to invite to plein air shows because they always undercut everybody else and it screws up the whole show. And that becomes their brand. So your brand is about who you are, not just about what you paint. And so if you've got to ask yourself, what do you want to be? If people think you're like the sweetest, nicest person in the world and they want to help you, that's part of your brand. If they think you're also a really great painter, that's part of your brand. If they know that you always do great brush work, that's part of your brand. So you just have to reinforce the positives and try to eliminate the negatives. But for some people, there is a negative aspect to their brand. Think of somebody in the film business who's a bad boy, right? Who would it be? Sean, what's his name? Anyway, the idea being that if you have a bad boy image, let's say you're trying to be the guy that's always got cigarettes rolled up in his sleeves and tattoos, and and that tattoos are not bad boy anymore, but they used to be. And so cigarette hanging out of his mouth and hair greased back and whatever it is, and always fighting back, always making noise, always being irritating. That's an image. Now, I have a friend who is related to a very famous actress. I won't mention the name. This very famous actress is known for something that she does that is, if I tell you what she does, then you're going to figure it out right away. But she does something very specific that everybody knows her for. And what's interesting is he said to me, I asked him about her one time. I said, does she really do that? He says, no. He said, some PR person came up with it years ago and it stuck. She's not at all like that. But that's the image that she wants to reinforce to create her Hollywood image. You know, you'll see politicians will rally against something, you know, what everybody else loves, and they're making a lot of noise and they're being hurtful and they're being dangerous. And the reality is that helps them play to their base, because that reinforces the people who elected them because they were bad boys or bad girls or whatever. So all of that plays into your brand. I know that's a little too much on branding, I'm sure. Okay, let's see what else we've got here, Megan.
Next, we have Henry Collins from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. What is the smartest way to use limited time offers without cheapening my brand?
This is another case of something where I'd love to be able to ask you probing questions. I think that you've got to be really careful about marketing tools like limited time offers. They work really well. There are two things that work extremely well in marketing. One of them is called scarcity, and that is that, you know, there's only one of these, right? You have every painting you paint, unless you're doing prints, you have scarcity. This is the only one of its kind. That's scarcity. That's something that should be played up and reinforced all the time. Now, there's the other thing is urgency. Urgency is this deal is going to expire. So here's ways you can do it. You can say, I'm having a studio sale. I've decided that I'm having a moving sale. I've decided that I can't hold on to all these paintings anymore. So I've decided, just because I have so many paintings hanging around, I'm going to knock the price down 20% on all of my paintings for 1 week only. And I'm not playing games here. It's really truly 1 week. And, you know, come to the studio on these dates and, you know, come and get them. You know, there's great opportunity. I think you can do things like that. But if you do it all the time, then it's strange. You know, we do a lot of things that are truly scarce. That, you know, for instance, when we announced the China trip, I think we can only take 30 or 40 people. And so that's scarce, because, you know, we've already had 50 or 60 people who've said, yeah, I think I want to go on that. So because it's based on, you know, the size of the buses or something like that. I don't know. So I'm not saying that's the number. I'm just using that as an example because I don't know what the number is off the top of my head. But so that's legitimate. If you were sitting in listening quietly into a team meeting with me and my marketing team, I say to them, don't use scarcity if it's not true. Don't use urgency if it's not true, because ultimately you got to live with yourself. And also, you don't want to be doing anything that would get you in any kind of hot water from the marketing police, whoever they are. Okay. Next question.
From Jack Turner in Idaho, is cold emailing or cold calling interior designers a good strategy for artists?
Well, the first thing you can do is you can legally, and don't get your legal advice from me. I think you can legally email anybody one time, but if you start doing mass emailings to people who have not opted into your list, then you could create some problems for yourself. So yeah, I think, I think, look, you want to be efficient. If I were you, I would go into AI. AI, in spite of the fact that everybody's all freaked out about it stealing your images, which hopefully it's not, but maybe it is. But I would go into AI and I'd say, listen, put me together a list. Say, I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Where does this artist live, Megan?
This one's in Idaho.
Okay, so I live in Des Moines. I live in Idaho, and I would like a list of every interior designer in the state of Idaho, or in my city, or in my region, and give me their email, contact information, everything. AI will do that for you in about 2 minutes. You get the right AI. And then you can send a note to all these people and say, say something compelling in the subject line, because if it feels spammy, it won't get open. But you could do introduction, and you can just write a nice little letter that says, I'd like to introduce myself. I am, I'm so-and-so. I'm a local artist. I've worked with designers in the past, if that's true. And I would love for you to see some of my work, and let you know that I pay commissions to designers, and I'm willing to do custom pieces for any size for your clients. Here's my website. If you have any questions, call me. Just get on their radar. That's all you do. And then maybe, send them a follow-up once every quarter or something like that. I think that's good. And then, you could reach out to them. You could call them. You could call each one at a time, say, hey, I'm the guy that sent the email. People do this to me all the time, like, what email? Right. So remember, people get hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of emails. So, I'm the artist that I don't know if you saw it or not, but I sent you an email about artwork that I provide. And I'm trying to drum up a little business. And, I'm in 7 galleries and very effective there, but also, a lot of people collect my work because of my Idaho paintings. And so, just have a talk with them, just briefly. Just don't become a pest. That's all. All right. The other thing I want to tell you guys about is the plein air convention is coming up. And I was thinking about this last night. There is nothing like this in the world. Nothing. It doesn't exist. A place where artists gather in volume for 5 days to learn how to paint, how to get to the next level, specifically plein air and landscape painting, where there's 5 stages where you can watch a watercolorist or a pastelist or a gouache artist or an acrylic artist or an oil painter or, whatever, where you can get lectures on art, where you can have a giant expo hall where you can go and gather materials. There is something like that for the pastel world, specifically for the pastel world, and this is their last year. But in terms of the plein air and landscape for all the others, nothing like that exists. And, there are small regional conventions and little gatherings of, a few people here and there, but this is a big deal. And this is where everybody in the plein air world kind of goes. It's kind of like Thanksgiving for plein air artists, because we see our friends, we meet new friends, we hang out together with people who have things in common with us, and then we all go painting together. This year, I don't know if we have a slide on this or not, but this year we're centrally located. If you look at the rings surrounding Branson, Missouri, we're going to be in the Ozarks, which are stunningly beautiful. That's why Branson gets so many visitors, is because people like to go hiking and camping there. It's so gorgeous. And yeah, there's stuff to do too there in Branson. But, it's a day and a half from most of America, and driving wise. And, you can fly there to Springfield if you want to, but that's a little harder because of, harder to get flights there. But you really should come to this. It's really a lot of fun. It's called the Plein Air Convention. Let's play that right now.
If you're like most painters, you sometimes wonder if you're good enough to grow, good enough to paint alongside others, good enough to take a leap like this. I want you to hear this. Every master once felt exactly the way you do. The Plein Air Convention isn't an elite retreat. It's the world's largest gathering of plein air painters, but it feels amazingly small. 5 stages running at once means you're never lost in a crowd. You pick the demos you love, you move freely between rooms, you learn at your own pace. Unlike other art conventions where every session is an upcharge, PACE gives you complete access to everything. Every stage, every demo, every session, all included for one price. Other conventions make you pay for every session you attend, and you can't change if you don't love it. At PACE, all sessions are open to all people. Included in your price, you'll find small groups forming naturally. Beginners painting next to other beginners or alongside great masters. Strangers become friends within minutes. At PACE, everyone is an equal, welcomed, supported, and encouraged. No one here judges your skill level. Everybody remembers what it felt like to be new at painting. And here's the best part of the event. You don't ever need to feel alone or to paint alone, not even for a single minute. PACE becomes your tribe. The friendships you make here can last a lifetime.
You know what? It's a very comfortable atmosphere. People are all very, very friendly. It's a wonderful experience. I mean, it's a wealth of information.
Then we go outside into the incredible beauty of the amazing Ozarks. Dramatic light, peaceful afternoons, and views that beg to be painted. And you're painting shoulder to shoulder with some of the greatest living artists who have become your newest friends. If you've been waiting for the right moment to grow, to connect, and to feel inspired again, this is it. Join us for 5 life-changing days at the Plein Air Convention and Expo. Seats are limited, so register now and don't miss your chance to discover what you're truly capable of.
Plein air convention is about the people. It's a people thing. If you're a people person, it's great. You know, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, the learning is great, but the people, that's what this is all about. Okay, Megan, do we have any other questions?
I've got 2 more from the comments.
All
Our
right,
first one's from Budget Bonsai. I'm hearing repeated chatter about not selling my originals. What are your thoughts?
repeated chatter. Well, Budget Bonsai, I don't know your work. Um, I had dinner one night with Thomas Kincaid. You probably know that name. Maybe some of you do. And Thomas Kincaid said to me, my biggest regret is that now that I'm well known and my paintings go for a lot of money, his prints even went for a lot of money. He said, I've been spending the last couple of years trying to buy back all my art, all my original artwork, because he wanted to own all his originals and put them into his museum, which I thought was a pretty nice thing to do. I think, you know, if you're going to make your living as an artist, you're going to have to sell some of your artwork. Unless you can make a living solely as a printmaker, then you're going to have to sell some of your artwork. But what I tell people to do is hold back 10% for your family and hold back some for your eventual future needs, right? So for instance, if you, let's say heaven forbid you got really sick and you couldn't paint for a year, but you had enough inventory that you could send, 30, 40, 50, 60 paintings out for a year to your galleries so you could keep your income. That would be a good reason to have some. Let's say that you wanted to leave some paintings to your grandchildren or your children. I tell every artist I know, designate some paintings for your children and your grandchildren, because they may or may not care about them right now. Mine certainly don't, but maybe they will someday. And so you want to have some put aside. You could just put them in your studio and label them, this is for Mindy and this is for Bobby and this is for Frankie. And, so that when they're going through your stuff, they'll know that you were thinking about them. And I would give them some of your best work, right? So that you're giving them a representation of it. Now, you might want to leave them more than one. That depends. But, my dad gave me a ton of his photography, and he gave me so much of it, I can't put it out. I have some of it out, but I don't have all of it out. So a lot of it's just sitting in a storage bin and probably will sit there forever. And that's too bad when other people could be enjoying it. So, we all have to do something about that. But I think that you want to hold back some stuff because as you grow as an artist, I've heard many artists say, I wish I had a little bit more of some of the things that I put out there. So one of the things that will help you accomplish that is price scarcity, right? If you can get your prices up, then those prices will hopefully compensate for the fact that, if you paint three, you're going to keep one. And that way, and maybe you don't want to keep 1 and 3, maybe you want to just keep 1 and 10, but keep your very best stuff out and back. I mean, you want to put really good stuff out to your galleries or to the marketplace or to art shows if you're in art shows, competitions, things like that. You've got to put your best work out there. But my wife will once in a while she'll come in and say, I want that painting. And I have a painting right now that I haven't framed. It's been sitting there. And it's just, I've been tempted to send it to gallery, but I don't because she wants it. And I know it'll sell because it's good painting, but that's something that will become a family heirloom for her, and maybe for the kids down the road. So keep that in mind. Hope that helped. Next question.
All right, from Carolyn Avalos. Question about discounting. I like to do donations to charities and we do a fundraiser. I reduced my price by 50 to 75% from my website price. Is that too much? Does that devalue my paintings?
Could you read that question, the beginning of that question, one more time?
Sure. I like to do donations to charities and we do a fundraiser where I reduce the price of my paintings by 50 to 75% versus what's on my website. Is that too much? Does that devalue my painting?
Well, it might. First off, I have a lot of artists who are like, I don't want to give to fundraisers. Fundraisers are always asking me to donate paintings, and I can't deduct, legally, I don't think you can deduct anything but the actual cost of materials. So why would I do it? The reason you do it is it's great marketing. If you are a local artist and you're trying to market locally, you do it because you get highlighted. And we can talk about that another time, but the idea being, I'll donate some paintings to you, but they're going to be for the auction. They're going to be highlighted. You want to put expensive paintings in the auctions, right? And help them raise money. Now you can let them start at whatever price, but they can say, we have a painting valued at $10,000 donated by you, and that and make them introduce you, try to get some promotion on their marketing materials, things like that. That'll make a big difference. I think you want to be careful about discounting because anytime you discount something too far, that becomes the price in people's mind. And so it's hard for me. If I bought something for 75% off from somebody, then I expect that same price next time I buy something. And if they say, well, it was part of an auction donation or something, I have that price in my head. That's what's locked in. So whatever donation, whatever you're doing, discounting, you're locking in a price in somebody's head. Just keep that in mind. And raising prices is one of the hardest things to do. So be careful about locking things in. I think, if you could give it a discount of 5 or 10%, that's fine. That's still a discount. And by the way, if it's more money, you'll raise more money, ultimately, maybe with fewer paintings. Okay, well, I want to remind you guys to subscribe to this program. We're here every weekday at 12 noon. Just go to YouTube, look up Art School Live, and hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. Follow me on social media at Eric Rhoads. You'll want to do that because I'm getting ready to go live in Europe for a little while. And I've got some exciting things I'll be talking about there. So you want to become a part of that. And then at the same time, just join in, follow. You can learn to paint. We believe anybody can learn to paint. And if you watch any 5 of our instruction videos midweek, then you can learn to paint. We believe it. You can get the confidence you need. But if you, Mondays are marketing, Fridays are feedback, and guest artists in the middle of the week. So come in, subscribe. We're glad you're here. Thank you for the comments today. Make sure you send your questions to me, eric@streamlinepublishing.com. Thank you, guys. And by the way, I know this is a tough storm. We're thinking of you guys. We'll keep you in our prayers. This is a really great time. You've got some time. You're stuck at home anyway. Go to painttube.tv and find an instructional video or something that just really gets you excited, or go back and watch some of these YouTube shows. We've got hundreds of them, thousands of them, and use the time. All right. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.